really.
All right, now 3 o'clock. What's going on, my friends? Trailblazers kicked off their 7-game road trip with a win last night, 114-112 over the Jazz in Salt Lake City. Ant scored a game-high 28. Avdia was awesome, 18 points, 14 boards, 5 assists. They weren't perfect, but they found a way to get the win. Coach Billups said he's excited about the teaching moments provided in the win. Blazers continue their road trip tomorrow in D.C. against the Wizards. Tip at 4. Our coverage begins with Blazer Game Day hosted by Chris Burkhardt at 2. We have a gift tonight in the NBA, 7 o'clock on TNT. The Mavericks are at the Lakers. First meeting between the two since Luka Doncic was traded to L.A. for Anthony Davis. The Lakers are a 9.5-point favorite. From the NFL, Browns GM Andrew Berry says the team has no plans to trade Myles Garrett, who requested a trade last month. And Nick Sirianni says it would be unfair for the NFL to outlaw the tush push.
It's time for the Rip City Drive, brought to you by Goldberg Jones. Divorce for Men, 1-800-DIVORCE. Featuring the crazy and often irrational longtime Portland radio vet, Chad Dewing.
To the corner from Mikhailuk, fades away, corner three, no good to beat the shot clock. 3-on-2 for the Blazers. Avdia dumps it off to Sharp, who dunks it in on the fast break. Beautiful no-look pass from Avdia to Sharp, 90-84. Blazers are 3 of 17 from 3 in the second half. Inbound to Simons, 3 on the way. Buries it. 23 for Anthony Simons. 9-0 Blazers run. They lead at 99-92. Simons in front of Filipowski on the far side. He attacks, splits and kicks to Avdia for the corner 3, and it's good. First 3 of the game for Denny, and it's 105-97.
It's just tough to play teams when they sit, when all their guys don't play. You know, you spend so much time preparing for their guys. And then you have to play against some guys that are really good players that usually don't have the freedom.
Strap in. The Rip City Drive with Chad Dewing starts now.
I got bombarded with a lot of different information right as the show was beginning. The Trailblazers just reached out, and they asked me if I would have interest in speaking with Laurie Walton, Lionel Hollins, Dave Twardzik, and Johnny Davis ahead of Bill Walton night coming up at Moda Center. The answer to that would be yes. Brooke Olzendam's going to come up on the show today at 3:20. They're on their 7-game road trip, getting ready for a game in D.C. against the Wizards tomorrow. So Brooke's coming up at 3:20. My man, Brian Noe, Bino! Fox Sports Radio going to join the show at 4:20. And then at 5:20, the gentleman who is just as responsible as anybody else for my radio career, who is now in Dallas, Gavin Dawson, the general, is going to join the show. We'll get his take on the Luka trade and what the story is behind that ahead of tonight's matchup in Los Angeles between the Lakers and Mavericks. The first meeting between the two teams since the trade went down when Luka was shockingly dealt to the Lakers in exchange for Anthony Davis and a first-round pick. So Gavin Dawson will join us today at 5:20. And tonight's game, I just saw this right when the show was beginning. There's a new commercial out with Luka for tonight's game, and the theme track underneath the commercial is "All My Exes Live in Texas." How perfect is that? What a game that's going to be tonight. 7 o'clock TNT, Lakers and Mavericks. And this has got the makings of a good old-fashioned ass-whooping, if you ask me. The Mavericks are beat up right now. They don't have their bigs. And they're going to be playing in L.A. against a team that's been very hot of late in the Lakers. And I would imagine, and I've mentioned this before, when you're a great elite athlete like Luka Doncic, and I know some of you are scoffing at that because he's not known for great conditioning, but he's an elite-level athlete. Let's face it. He can do things on the basketball floor that most guys can't. And he's a top 3 player in the world. Your top 3 right now are Jokic, Giannis, and Luka. You can line those up however you want, but those are your 3 best players in the world, and Luka is now a part of the Lakers. My guess is he's going to go wild, and the Lakers will destroy the Mavericks tonight. And then Maverick fans are going to be very bitter and lobbing a bunch of bombs at Nico Harrison and the Mavericks front office for even trading him in the first place. My guess would be, based on what I know of athletes and the way this kind of stuff goes down, J.J. Redick, LeBron, Austin Reeves, and the rest of his teammates will go out of their way to make sure he gets off tonight. And from what I've seen on social media, Mavericks fans want him to go off so they have more fuel to their fire that they can aim in the direction of Nico Harrison, the general manager of the Dallas Mavericks. It's going to be a great scene. Not as good as the scene that we'll get later in the year when the Lakers go back to Dallas, but this is going to be pretty awesome. It's going to be great for Luka to have a chance to showcase what he can do to the team that tossed him to the curb and then went out of their way to throw him under the bus. That's pretty much what's going down. So tonight, Lakers, Mavericks. It's not often in the regular season we get these type of moments because it's such a long season and the playoffs are so awesome that we get a couple of moments throughout the year where it's like, I got to tune in for that. Tonight's one of those games. I have to tune in for the Lakers and Mavericks to see what Luka does against Dallas. From what I can gather from the Mavericks fans that I've seen on social media, they want Luka to go off. A 50-piece, a 60-piece. They want him to dominate to show how dumb Nico and the Mavericks front office is. So that's what's going down tonight, which is going to be pretty sweet. So, Brooke Olzendam at 3:20, Bino, Fox Sports Radio at 4:20, and Gavin Dawson, my former partner in Dallas, talking about the Luka trade. We'll get his take on the Cowboys as well and what they need to do during the course of the offseason to set up their new coach, Brian Schottenheimer, to put him in a position to have success. Now, the Trailblazers, they got a win last night. They were in Utah to kick off their 7-game road trip, and they found a way to get it done. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't pretty, but they got the job done. 114 to 112. They survived a last-second three that went off the front of the rim, and they secure the victory, make it back-to-back games, and they kick off the 7-game road trip with a win. Now, I will say this, and this is, again, part of the player development and what we're looking for from this group. This is a game that earlier in the season they probably lose. But what we're seeing now is with the development of this group and a renewed commitment to really executing the different concepts that the coaches throw out, these young guys, we're seeing better defense, we're seeing better energy, and good teams find ways to win on nights when they don't have their best stuff. And again, that's most nights in the NBA because the schedule is so long. You're not going to have many nights where you win by 53 and make 20 of 43 from downtown like we saw on Saturday. But the Blazers scrapped last night, and they did enough. And Denny Avdia was terrific. Here's how I know a player's good. When you don't shoot the ball well, but yet make a major impact in the game. That's how good basketball players operate. Avdia, I think he made 5 of 15 from the floor, but 18 points, 14 rebounds, 5 assists, and good defense. He and Kamara, whether they're making shots or not, they're impacting the game. They're peppering the stat sheet. They're playing tough defense. They're using their energy to have an impact on the game and their teammates. And we saw that last night from Denny Avdia. I thought he was terrific. And again, just another example of these two forwards. Kamara on Saturday was fabulous, and last night, Denny Avdia. Now, they got the scoring, the bulk of it, from Grant and Ant. That's fine. But you have to have guys who are willing to do a little bit of everything on the floor, and the Blazers got that last night, which was terrific. And I want to see more of that on this road trip. Denny Avdia he's like a man possessed. And so is Kamara. And that's why those two guys have such a dramatic impact on the team and why those two have been the MVPs throughout the year. And it was in that second half when the game got a little bit shaky that Avdia really started to assert himself. So big props to him. Again, good players impact the game even when they're not making shots. Good players find ways to help their team win on nights when they're not making shots. That's the beauty of having all-around players like Kamara and Avdia. Elsewhere, I thought Scoot Henderson really played an effective game. He came off the bench, got 30 minutes, 17 points, 6 assists, and 5 rebounds. He did have 6 turnovers, which was an issue, and that was part of the sloppy play that we got at times from the Blazers last night. But we're seeing the improvement on the defensive end. He's making an impact with his energy, and I thought last night he really picked his spots. It was a terrific performance, good effort from Scoot. And we want to see more of that as the season continues. There's still, 25 games to go? Plenty of opportunities for these young guys to get on the floor, play together, make an impact, and continue their process of development. It's going to be critical. Klingon got 25 minutes last night, which is nice. We want more of that. He had 12 rebounds. The Blazers, once again, were plus in the rebounding category. That's an important number for them because Coach has been emphasizing the importance of rebounding and why they need to rebound to be able to win. And that was terrific. And last night, they really had a couple of big runs. In the first, they closed the second on an 18-0 run before the Mavericks got a heave-ho half quarter right before halftime. And then the Blazers once again pulled away later in the fourth before the Jazz made their final push. But the Blazers, they did enough. But that second quarter, that run, 18-zip, was impressive. And Coach talked about that after the game, the second quarter run, and then the continued effort by the young Jazz who were out there. All right, so teaching moments that they're going to be able to get from that game. Tough games where you don't play your best, but you get a chance to learn from it, and you can push forward. And Coach talked about those teaching moments. He was pretty excited about that. Yeah, they got the win, and that's all that matters in the end. The Trailblazers now will press forward, get ready for the Wizards. Opportunity for Denny Avdia to face his former team, which is pretty cool. Back in D.C., big moment for him. And final thoughts on the win from Coach. All right. So good win for the Blazers. They move on and get ready for the Wizards tomorrow. And then they're going to play the Nets after that. They won't be back until, I think, March 7th. So a big road trip for the Trailblazers. But again, we want to see development. We want the young guys to continue to produce. So at the end of the year, the front office has a very good idea of where they're at, where they're headed, and what they've got with these young guys. But again, nice effort from Scoot last night. Really love what I've seen from him over the last couple of months. All right, appreciate your time, Rip City Drive. Got some NFL notes as well. We thought that maybe Gronkowski was going to make a return to the NFL, but now we're not so sure. I'll explain that. I'll tell you why it's ridiculous for the NFL to consider eliminating the tush push. Just because everybody else in the league sucks at something doesn't mean you should get rid of it. It's the same reason why I hated the NBA messing with the hack-a-shack rule. If you don't want teams to foul a guy because he can't make free throws, then that guy should learn to make free throws. Why should they change the rules to protect us from that kind of stuff? All right, coming up next, Brooke Olzendam on the road with the Trailblazers will join us. We'll get her take on the team, the win last night, Saturday's 53-point beatdown franchise record, and we'll talk Brooke Heart Your Heart. I'm Chad Doing. You got the Rip City Drive. All right, your Trailblazers. All right, your Trailblazers kicked off a 7-game road trip yesterday in Salt Lake City, and joining us now from the road is a longtime Trailblazers personality, part of the TV broadcast with Kevin Calabro and Lamar Hurd. It's Brooke Olzendam, who is back on the show. Brooke, I'm wondering, with these 7-game road trips, what are some things you do when you're on an extended trip, because you won't be back until March 7th, with your free time? How do you enjoy yourself when you're on the road?
Well, you know what? Thanks for having me, first of all, Chad. Good to hear you. On one of these long ones, you really have to bide your time. Like, you have to really think about rest and really put that first. So on these long road trips, I really try to not do a ton, to be honest. I have a very good friend in Boston, so I always see her. So that's always on the, like, mark that one down. But for the rest of these cities where I don't really have anyone, I keep a low profile. I get dinner in, just work and just chill, because 14 days is a doozy. So lots of relaxation when you can, because it's a grind.
Yeah, it is a grind. You got to keep yourself healthy as well. I watched your post-game interview last night with Ant on the floor there in Utah. He echoed what Coach Phillips and the other guys said, that they were fortunate to escape with a win. But don't you think that's a sign of growth? Because they probably don't win that game earlier in the season, and yet now they're finding ways to win games like that.
I completely agree. There would be so many games that felt like at the beginning of the season, towards the middle, where they fought hard, came down to last couple seconds, and it didn't go their way. They didn't get the reward of a win. So last night was one of those where, gosh, they needed it, because also first of 7 on the road, just to set the tone. That would have been a gut punch to walk out of that arena with a loss after all of that. Having such a hefty lead. And then, of course, Utah Jazz comes back and just hits these crazy threes. I'm like, this is not happening. But, that was huge. To start it off 1-0, it was really big. And you're right. I think you're right, Chad, that I don't know if that they would have pulled that out at the beginning of the season. So it definitely shows growth, and shows that, a lot of discipline, down the stretch. Those threes, they did a great job of not fouling. Tumani, is such an amazing defender. He was on him, but he didn't foul him, because that would have been just the worst, as you know. So they had discipline down the stretch, and they're talking to each other, communicating, and they've come so far that, I think that would have been dicey towards the beginning of the season, but last night showed how far they've come.
Well, I'm with you. I thought Kamara was terrific on those final couple of plays, being in the right position but not doing too much. I want to go back to Saturday for a moment. The 53-point win, largest in franchise history. It's so bizarre, and yet it seemed like the guys weren't really sure how to respond when they were asked about it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it was crazy, because history was made, and we talked to Coach Phillips about it, post game, where he was asked about it, and he said, yeah, I mean, it's cool that we're in the history books, for now, and maybe it will be, broken down the way, but it was cool for all of us. We're like, this is wild, but I think when you're in it, like the guys playing in it, I don't necessarily know if they knew the depth of all that, like how big of a deal that was, because they just, they were rolling and they just wanted to win. But I thought it was crazy. I was just like, is this true? Like, we were looking at the stats, we're talking to PR, making sure that we have it all right. And it was wonderful. But I think you're right. Maybe in the action, they weren't maybe aware of what a big deal that was.
Yeah, no doubt. How excited is Avdia to go back to D.C. and have a chance to play against his former team?
You have to think he is very excited. I'm going to talk to him tomorrow for our pregame interview.
Good.
So you'll hear from him. Yeah, I got to do that. Well, he's just excited to play in general. So then you throw this facet in that he's playing his former team. And the weird thing about it, Chad, though, is that I don't know, there's not animosity between he and, his team, like, and the fans. The fans loved him. We were really had our eye on Denny. Obviously, we were able to make it happen. There's a lot of work that went into that. But, the fans there still love him. I can't tell you how many Washington Wizards fans I know and people that work for the team were like, we're devastated when you guys got Denny. Like, we love Denny. So I'm not to say that there is any animosity between him and perhaps the front office. I have no idea. I don't know how Denny felt when that happened. I know that I remember talking to him and he was surprised, but he just loves it in Portland. He loves his team. He loves his coaches. He loves all of it. So I think he's very happy with where he is. But you got to think that he's going to get up a little bit for this one, because it's Denny, and he's going to be up for it already. But taking on his former teammates, there's always a little extra something when those matchups come. So I can't wait to see him, because Denny is at one speed all the time. So you throw in a little extra something, who knows what we'll see from Denny.
Oh, my gosh. He's going to be full speed ahead tomorrow. There's no question about it. You mentioned him. He's going to be, dude, wait until he gets on the break, man. If you get in his way, he is going straight through you. You know that's how it's going to go down, Brooke.
He's a bulldozer. He is a bulldozer.
Dude, there's no way.
About his speed.
If I was standing there and I was thinking about taking a charge and I saw Denny coming down the lane at me, I'm out of there, man. I don't want any part of that.
No, You just get out of the way and say, the lane is all yours.
It's all
Denny.
yours, buddy.
I'm
Do what you
giving
need
it
to do.
It's so true, but
yeah,
it's so true.
no, it is. You mentioned Denny loving basketball. I think that's an important note because I don't think every player in the league loves playing the game of basketball. And I think the Blazers, along with Denny and Tamani, and we see it from Scoot, they have some real gym rats, guys who I think they're kind of addicted to hoop. I think that's a good thing to have on the team.
Absolutely. Again, you nailed it with those three. And Scoot in particular, I mean, he was raised on it, and and I've talked about this a lot, he's first in the gym, last out of the gym. He loves it. He lives it. It's in his blood. And Denny and Tumani I think they definitely love the game, but they also just love the competition of it. They love to get out there and get into people. And Tumani, obviously, we know what an amazing defender he is, and he just lives for that, lives for the charge, and his offense is coming along as well. And then Denny just, like we just said, he has blinders on. He's out there just going to work. So to have those three guys kind of not necessarily set a tone, but when you're watching these guys out there doing what they love and just flourishing and giving it 100% at all times, it's contagious. You're like, okay, well, if he's going to go full speed, I need to be going full speed. And so then it just kind of sets the tone for everybody. And they're kind of all a little bit of gym rats. They love being in the gym. They love, we had a practice when we first got to town in Utah. They're in their element. They're getting their shoes on. They're playing their side games. While they're waiting for the practice to start. They're just having fun. They just love to be in there. They love to be in there together. But those three in particular, they have a strong love for the game, and it totally shows.
Well, my dream for tomorrow is Avdia has a big game against his former team, and then you get the interview with him on the floor after the game, and he gets to sign the camera. That's what I want.
Yes. That's what I want, too. That's
okay.
Exactly what I want. Yes, that's happening. I mean, I shouldn't say that's happening. I would really like that to happen. That's what we need. I've really been enjoying the signing of the last night. I have to say, I'll take the L for last night. The camera that was supposed to, he wasn't there yet. So we started the interview. And in my mind, like, I don't know if he's there. So I had to play it safe because if I hand over the Sharpie and there's like no camera, and then that's going to be awkward. Yeah. So I just played it safe, and I was like, I'm not sure if that camera has arrived yet, and so we'll just skip it tonight. But we're not doing that anymore. Now that we have it, we're going to rehearse it. It's going to be set, and I will not have to be concerned if they're there or not. They will be there. So moving forward, tomorrow night, Denny post game. Check.
Well, I respect that. Like a true player, you took responsibility for the L, and now you're going to correct things moving forward. Hey, I wanted to ask you about something. I was in Studio C last night during the game, and I have the monitors on in front of me, but they're on mute. And you interviewed a gentleman at the game who had survived a cardiac arrest. Can you tell me about that story? Because I couldn't hear the interview, but it looked really interesting.
Oh, last night was jam-packed full of heart health awareness stuff. It was like amazing. It was the highlights of so far, my highlight of the year in terms of games that we were able to talk about that. We had a couple different stories, but the one you're talking about, Danny Berger is his name. He played at Utah State, and it kind of dovetails on the story that we talked about at the beginning of the show. Ryan Gomes, player developmental coach for the Blazers, he had an AAU teammate pass away from cardiac arrest, and so it really, obviously hit him hard, and what can I do? And they did not have a defibrillator at the gym where he collapsed. Ambulance came. They didn't have a defibrillator. This was back in the day. And so they sent a second one that did have it, but it had been too long. It had been like 40 minutes. So sadly, they didn't have the equipment that could have saved his life. So that obviously stuck with Ryan. So his goal was he has a foundation. His goal is to give as many AEDs to colleges, schools as he can. So he's been quietly doing all this, and we were not aware of it until recently. I said, I'm mad at you. Why didn't you share this with me? This is something we should have talked about. He's like, well, I just don't like to make it a big deal. But I'm like, well, it is a big deal. So now back to your story that you're talking about. One of the schools that he donated a defibrillator to was Utah State. The gentleman I was speaking to last night, Danny Berger, collapsed, was in cardiac arrest. The AED that Ryan Gomes donated saved his life.
Oh my gosh!
So chills. I know, it's chills. I can't even. I have them right now. So we talked about that last night, which was total full circle. And in my interview with Danny, he was wonderful. I had a son with him. It was adorable. And I said,
he was waving. He was waving to me. He was waving to the camera. Yes.
He was waving.
I waved back.
No, he was waving to you, Chad.
But Brooke, think about this. But this is the beauty of it. And I couldn't even hear a thing that was being said, but I was able to capture what was going on. You have a dad who survived because of something that Gomes was able to help donate to a school when he needed it most, when he was dead, and they're able to revive him. And there he is doing an interview with you, sharing a moment with his son where he's waving into the camera. Like, it doesn't get any more perfect than that.
It doesn't. And then as I'm walking back so it was kind of, I had to go behind the coaching staff, the second row, to get to my seat. And so Danny's standing there, and he goes, "Is that Ryan?" Because you couldn't see you only see their backs. I said, "Yeah." So I walked by and I tapped Ryan on the shoulder, and he was obviously totally focused on the game. He's like, why are you talking to me? And I was like, "No, look to your left." And so they got to have a moment, and it was beautiful.
That is so good.
It was crazy. It was crazy. Yeah, it was really, really neat. And being able to share his story, and he's obviously, he didn't want to talk about himself. He just wanted to talk about, getting these out there as many places as we can. Oh, what I was going to say is Danny Berger, full circle. Now his career is AEDs. He sells AEDs.
Shut up.
No, I swear.
Gosh.
It was crazy. I asked him, I go, "So tell everyone what you do." And he said that. And then, not to be over the top, but in between us, I was like, where we were standing, we're in the VOM, like in the corner. And I had to move something so we could get closer. And it was received later. I was like, look what's at our feet. This is just, it's insane.
That is so good.
The whole night was special.
Wow, that's really good. I'm glad you shared that. I'll tell you what else is special. Since the start of 2020, Brooke Heart Your Heart, which is your foundation, has raised over $125,000 in support of Brooke's efforts. And the Trailblazers have pledged to match up to $5,000 in donations to the American Heart Association of Oregon and Southwest Washington. That's special, Brooke. You got to love being a part of that.
I do. And every year, I can't believe it. When we started up, I'm like, I hope that we're able to continue to be successful because people are so generous and wonderful, and they donate, every year. And I'm like, are people going to donate again? I mean, I just have that in me every year. It hits me. And then people come through amazingly, and we continue to raise money. We're over $10,000 now. And I don't know if you know this, but my biggest donation so far that put me over $5,000, did you see my tweet who it was?
No. Who is it?
Our boy, Yusuf Nurkic.
Oh, that's so good. You know what's funny about Yusuf is, and I know this, he quietly goes about helping out people in need and making donations, but he doesn't make it public. And I know he did a lot of great stuff here for people locally with different organizations, and he never looked for the credit for that, but I know he was doing stuff behind the scenes, which is awesome.
Always. He is the most generous, one of the most generous people I've ever met. I remember it was International Women's Day, and he bought all the women in the organization, flowers that day. I'm like, who are you? So, yeah, I gave him a shout-out when I saw him last week. I rode him a car.
Wait a second. Whoa. Did you say Nurk? He got every female in the organization flowers on Mother's Day.
I should say basketball operations.
That is amazing.
Facility. I know. And then it was back when Amara was working for us, so he got Amara some, me some. And Amar and I started crying. We're like, these are probably the only flowers we get in a while, so let's revel in this.
That's so great, man. I love hearing about those kind of stories. So I know that your campaign that you're running right now is, it comes and it ends quickly. So what are the different ways that people can help support Brooke Heart Your Heart right now?
Thanks for asking. So you go to trailblazers.com/heart. That's one way, and you can donate like Nurk did, just straight up donate. Click on it. It doesn't take very long. As soon as it comes out, we start on February 1st. I always go and donate to it and just kind of go through it. And so if people have questions, I can say, no, it doesn't take long. If you are willing to donate, thank you so much. If you already have, again, thank you so much. If you'd like to buy a pin, that's our piece of merch this season. We also have a few hats left from last year, so you can bundle them. You can buy one or the other. And also, when we come home at game day, you can get them. Or actually, we don't have to be there. You just go to Rip City Clothing, and they have a few left. They're getting low, so I would highly recommend getting in there quickly if you want one. And you can also buy them online. So
and you do that at Rip City Clothing? At Rip City Clothing?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
And you can do that at the arena or online at RipCityClothing.com.
Exactly. You can do that. They're fun. I've been bought a ton of the pins, and I've been giving them out to people, and it's something different. We've been doing hats, and we did a scarf, and I've loved everything we've done. But this is just kind of trying to add to it. So people have been putting the pin on their scarves if they had one from the first time I did a scarf. They put them on the hat. It's just a fun little accessory. I think it's real cute, and it's the Brooke Heart Your Heart.
Well, what I think is wonderful about this whole situation, Brooke, is that you took your own personal tragedy, losing your husband shortly after you got married, who had heart failure, and then instead of having that destroy you, you were able to take that, and now you formed a foundation, and you're helping other people out around the area, which I think is the best way to handle tragedy, and I appreciate that.
Thank you, Chad. Yeah, I'll say this, but, it took a while to get to a place, and I've talked about this before, where I've never started a foundation. I didn't know what I was doing. It really felt like the right place to do it after a few years working for the Trailblazers. As you know, it's the family and the fan base and everything, that it just felt right. I'm like, this is where I want to do it. This is who I want to do it with. This is a trusting environment. I feel comfortable and safe here. And so when I went to Krista Stout and with this idea, the Trailblazers were amazing. Said, absolutely, we will do this. And Annie Kay has been leading the charge ever since. Gabby also. I mean, there are a bunch of people, but they really are my right-hand women, and they've been just incredible. Just like tonight, like Gabby sends me a text, don't forget about Chad in 10 minutes. I'm like, you're amazing. Little things like that, just making sure everything is set. And it's been truly like one of the most humbling things I've ever experienced in my life, just with the help from the Trailblazers, and then obviously the support from the fans and anyone that has donated. It's been incredible. I was so glad that I did it at the right time. Felt great about it. First year was a success, and so every year I've just like, let's continue to do it. Let's continue to do it. And we've been raising a lot of money, as you said, from the top of the show, over $125,000 so far, and we haven't had our total yet of this year. So, again, thank you to everybody.
That's great. All right, 2 more questions for you. Number one, is Coach Billups, how happy is he with where the team is at now compared to last year?
I think he's very pleased, because he had a vision. He's had a vision this whole time on what the kind of basketball he wants his guys to play. He's a hard-nosed player, still is a hard-nosed coach. Like, this is the way I want us to play, and he's seen it come to fruition. He's seen the little things that you got to focus on this. Defense, you can go out there and score 30, but on the other side, you got to defend.
Yeah.
And he's been putting these things in their minds, like, this is what we got to do, this is what we got to do. And slowly but surely, it all kind of came together. Like, during that streak, everything that he envisioned was coming together. And I think I know he's very pleased. He lights up when we're talking about specific players, like Tumani, of course. Just the way he's been playing, and he's proud. He says that word a lot, but he truly means it. Like, and I'm proud of these guys. I'm proud of the way they fought. And I think that this is just as close, if not exactly, the kind of basketball he wants to see. Obviously, he didn't want to give an 18-point lead last game, but overall, he's seen the things that he's wanted this team to do and play like. And yeah, pleased, I think, is maybe it's an understatement. I think he's quite happy with what he's seen. Just got to make sure to make it consistent and carry it over to the next game and the next game and the next game.
That's great. All right, one more question. I'm excited about this, but March 9th, it's going to be Bill Walton night at Moda Center. How cool is that going to be?
So cool. I got my tie-dye jacket like months ago. I had it ready to go.
So you are going to go tie-dye.
Right,
it's the only way to do it.
Oh, are you kidding me? I love the theme, and I love Bill Walton, so it's perfect. Yeah, as soon as I saw the announcement that we were going to have a celebration of Bill Walton, first of all, I thought it was awesome. Absolutely, we must. And then I got online and started searching for tie-dye. So, yeah, I've had my outfit ready for a long time. It's going to be a really special night, especially because not only, just the person and player that he was, but the fact that the team has been gone for so long, we come back, and it's just the perfect time for the whole city. Fans come together, celebrate him, because the home game after this long road trip. It's just going to be a perfect timing. I can't wait for it. I think it's going to be such a special night.
All right. Her campaign is going right now. Brooke, Heart Your Heart. Go to trailblazers.com/heart to get more details, and you can donate from there, or you can pick up the merch at Rip City Clothing next time you're at Moda Center. Do it online at RipCityClothing.com. Brooke, as always, I really enjoyed talking with you. I wish you continued success with the foundation, and enjoy the road trip, my friend.
Thank you, Chad. I appreciate you. Thanks for having me on and allowing me to talk about it.
You got it. There's Brooke Olzendam. She's awesome, and Brooke Heart Your Heart is awesome. And she'll be on the broadcast tomorrow when the Blazers and Wizards meet up in D.C. Yeah, the Bill Walton night's going to be great. Can't wait for that. Looking forward to that. We get a chance to celebrate the Big Red Head over at Moda Center on the 9th of March. All right, we'll come back, and I'll tell you why getting rid of the tush push is an absurd idea. You got the Rip City Drive with Chad doing. Brian Noel, Fox Sports Radio, coming up at 4:20. All right, again, you can go to trailblazers.com/heart to get more information on Brooke Olzendam's foundation, Brooke Hearts Your Heart. And you can donate from there, or you can pick up some merch at RipCityClothing.com to support her efforts. All right, the NFL owners' meetings are coming up next month. And one thing they could vote on is what to do with the tush push. They could vote to eliminate it or change the rules on it. I don't know what they're going to do, and no one really seems to know what the final outcome is going to be. But there are people around the league, some, who would like to see it banned. And the reason why I think it's a bad idea is, one, I don't have a problem with the play myself. You know, the Eagles are very, very good and efficient at the tush push. And when you get in a short yardage situation, if you've come up with a way and perfected a way to pick up a yard or 2 yards to keep the chains moving, I don't think you should be penalized just because other teams can't keep up. And the Eagles are the best at it by far. A good example of that would be in the AFC title game when the Bills had used Josh Allen multiple times in quarterback sneak situations, but the Chiefs figured out how to stop it, got a key stop on 4th down, and they went down and got points and ended up winning the game and getting to the Super Bowl. But the Eagles are the best. Their offensive line, the way they play it, the way they execute it, the way Jalen Hurts runs it, it's perfection. And I don't want to see the play taken away. What I don't like are other teams who haven't found a way to perfect the play the way the Eagles have, and then getting frustrated by that, the fact that the Eagles are better at it than everyone else and they just won a Super Bowl, and looking for a way for the NFL to get rid of it. I didn't like it when the league changed the rules with Hack-a-Shack. Now, it may not be the best brand of basketball to intentionally foul a guy to keep putting him on the line, but my whole point is, if you don't want someone to use that strategy on you, then learn how to make a free throw. Shoot a higher percentage at the line, and guess what? They're not going to foul you and put you on the foul line. But because you've proven over the course of time that you stink at shooting free throws, teams are going to look for an edge. And if they can put you on the foul line knowing that you have a low percentage chance of making both, why not do it? Don't take something away because there are teams or players that are inefficient at doing something. So I want the play to stay. I think it's a good play. And I like it because I like seeing those type of short yardage situations, knowing what the Eagles are going to do, seeing them get up there on the line, and then, seeing if another team can stop them. Now, what I think the NFL will try to do, they're going to look for any data that they can to show that it's not a safe play. And if they can find data to show that it's not a safe play, that's their easy out to be able to get rid of the play. Because the NFL claims to be all about player safety. I don't believe that for a second, but that's what they claim. So I think they'll try to find data. And if they can find any type of data to support that the play could be dangerous, then that's their way of getting rid of it. Now, I heard an interview with J.J. Watt, and he doesn't think that play, the tush push with the defensive lineman and the offensive lineman, going head-to-head is any more dangerous than any other play on the field. In fact, he made the argument that, guys running full speed and then blasting into another guy is a lot more dangerous than the tush push because you have all the linemen up there at the line of scrimmage. They're an inch apart, and as soon as the ball is snapped, they're pushing their masses against one another. He thinks that it's much more dangerous when you get guys flying around at full speed. I tend to agree on that. But if the NFL looks to get rid of it, they'll try and find data to support their decision to make it easier in the court of public opinion. But I don't mind the play myself. What I like about it is that, we get a lot of great athletes in football, but there's also a lot of big guys in football. I like seeing a tug of war between the big guys once in a while, where you got guys slamming into one another, trying to push the pile. I find that very intriguing. And not only that, but hey, the Eagles have perfected the tush push. Why not see if a team can perfect the art of stopping it? Like, if the Eagles have perfected a way to get it done with Jalen Hurts and their personnel, why can't a team or a defensive coordinator devise a scheme to be able to stop that play? And I would think it would be maybe someone in division. Maybe it's the Giants or the Cowboys or somebody else in the NFC. If you're going to see the Eagles on a regular basis, why not come up with a way to stop it? What's interesting to me is that you would think that other teams would practice that play and learn to perfect it themselves, because if you get in a short yardage situation and you know you can get that with the tush push and you're going to pick up a yard or two and you can keep drives going and you can keep your offense on the field, why not learn to perfect it? Why don't we see more teams, learning the art of that play? My guess is the Eagles practice it more, teach it more, and really go through the ins and outs of the play more than anybody else in the league, just on the basis of what we've seen. And then it helps when you got the right personnel to be able to run the play. Now, some teams, depending on the quarterback, are like, we don't need to do that because we don't want to put our guy at risk. But Jalen Hurts is a very stout, stocky type of a quarterback. He's strong enough to be able to handle that. Maybe some guys you don't want running that type of play, but I would try to learn and perfect that play because short yardage situations are critical in the game. And we always talk about how it's a game of inches, but it really is a game of inches sometimes. And sometimes you need an inch to be able to pick up a first down and keep a drive going. And when you can do that and you don't have to throw the football or to try any type of trickery and you can just use your smarts and your leverage to pick up a first down, it makes a lot of sense. So don't take it away. I think that's crap. Why? Because someone complained, oh, we can't run the tush push the way they do. We can't stop it. Learn how to stop it. That stuff drives you crazy. Learn how to stop the play. So I hope they keep it. I got a couple other notes on the NFL as well. Apparently the Browns are saying they're not going to trade Myles Garrett. I guess they kind of have to say that. And then we got an interesting report from someone I know in Denver on Rob Gronkowski. Is he thinking about making a return? Would it be with the Broncos? I'll get into that next. You can reach out to me at Chad and Rip City on social, or you can call the show 503-248-0620. Brian Noe, Fox Sports Radio, going to join me at 4:20, and then Gavin Dawson, my former partner, now down in Dallas. We'll talk Luka with him at 5:20. Hope you're enjoying your Tuesday afternoon. Well, the weather today much better than last night. The weather yesterday was awful, and the winds last night were horrendous. Very scary. But nice. I'm seeing blue skies right now. All right, we'll keep things rolling here. Rip City Drive. We'll get to Rob Gronkowski and those details coming up next. You got the Rip City Drive. All right, the Trailblazers kicked off their 7-game road trip with a win last night, 114-112 over the Utah Jazz in Salt Lake City. Ant with a game-high 28. Avdia, 18 points, 14 boards, 5 assists. They weren't perfect, but found a way. Coach Phillips excited about the teaching moments provided in the win.
I really am excited. There's so many good things that we're going to be able to learn from, and it always feels a lot much better to learn after a win. You get that group credit over there. They played their butts off, and I'm glad we got the win, though.
Blazers continue their road trip tomorrow in D.C. against the Wizards. Tip-off at 4. Our coverage starts at 2 o'clock with Blazers Game Day with Chris Burkhart. We have a gift tonight in the NBA, 7 o'clock TNT Mavericks at the Lakers. First meeting between the two since Luka was traded to the Lakers for Anthony Davis. LA's a 9.5-point favorite. From the NFL, Browns GM Andrew Berry says the team has no plans to trade Myles Garrett. He requested a trade last month. Nick Sirianni says it would be unfair for the NFL to outlaw the tush push, and the Chiefs expect Travis Kelce back in 2025. All right, we're going to talk with Brian Noe, Fox Sports Radio, in 20 minutes. I miss my man Bino. Always nice to have him on the program. And then Gavin Dawson, my former partner and the gentleman who is as much responsible for my radio career as anyone else. He'll join the show at 5:20. Of course, he's been out in Dallas now for over a decade, and I want to get his take on the Luka trade. Get his thoughts. I want to find out what he knows, why he thinks they made the deal. I want to know what he thinks about some of the conspiracy theories that are floating around out there. And more importantly, how are we going to look back on this deal 10 years from now? So Gavin Dawson going to join me coming up at 5:20 for a little MSP reunion. I saw this tweet from Gavin, and it was in regard to Mark Spears, who's been covering the league for a long time, and his take on the Luka trade. Quote, I think there's more to that story, that I think they are trying to be respectful and not go into the weeds. But now we'll see how things go with Luka in L.A. Things will be much more magnified. Okay, so that's Mark Spears. Quote, I think there's more to that story, that I think they are trying to be respectful and not go into the weeds. So let me get this straight. The way the Mavericks have handled this so far is respectful? I don't think so. I mean, look, what could be so bad? Was he doing anything illegal? So he may not be the type of teammate you want him to be, and he may not, take his conditioning as seriously as you'd want for a max player. But he's still a top 3 player in the world. And you dealt him without any conversation with other teams and did not load yourself up with ammunition moving into the future. 1 future first-round pick. That's the hard part. That's the part that's really hard to wrap my mind around. Now, the weird thing is right now, if healthy, and that's a big if with the Mavericks, if healthy, they probably have a better roster right now than the Lakers, but they're not healthy. And when you trade for Anthony Davis, health is always going to be a question mark. I just don't understand how you make that deal in the first place. But if you do make the deal, how you don't get a bushel of first-round picks in return for a player of that magnitude, for someone that's still 25 years old, not even in his prime, and a top 3 player in the world. So we'll get the details from Gavin. But tonight is tailor-made for a Laker blowout win and Luka going wild and just adding fuel to the frustration of the Maverick fans' fire. And they're going to go crazy once again on Nico Harrison and the rest of that front office with the Mavs. And based on what I can gather on social media, they want Luka to go crazy tonight. They want him to have a big night so they can be like, look, Nico, you're a moron. What's your problem? How could you trade that guy away? And for Luka, I saw the commercial. Nike's got a new commercial out. It shows Luka putting his 77 license plate on his rig. And it's got the music of All My Exes Live in Texas. It's pretty solid. Pretty solid. So, yeah, my guess would be tonight, J.J. Redick, LeBron and company, they're going to make sure that Luka gets the ball where he wants, when he wants, to make sure he goes off. he'll probably go off tonight. I don't know what the final stat line is going to be, but scoring less than 40 would be a surprise. He's going to go crazy. The Mavericks are banged up right now. They're not healthy. The Lakers are playing good basketball. Most likely, you're going to see the Lakers thrash them tonight, I would think. It would be very embarrassing for LeBron and Luka to lose that game tonight. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think Dallas has got the firepower with their injuries. I think Luka's going to go crazy, and it's going to be a big night for the Lakers. And Maverick fans are going to be really ticked off. Now, when they make the return trip to Dallas, that's going to be an even better game because he'll get a hero's welcome. It's going to be such a bizarre scene for a guy that didn't want to be traded. Now he's with the Lakers. And Maverick fans loving Luka but hating the front office. Like the whole thing. It's like a soap opera. I can't get enough of it. So Gavin Dawson coming up at 5:20. We talked about the tush push. Now, there is an interesting story elsewhere. Cecil Lammey, who I know, he works for 104.3 The Fan in Denver and denversports.com. He is someone I respect. He's a talent evaluator, and he's pretty well connected around the league. He put out a tweet a few hours ago that says, league sources tell me that four-time Super Bowl champion tight end Rob Gronkowski is considering a return to the NFL. He worked with Sean Payton at Fox, and I'm told he loves Denver and quarterback Bo Nix. Two of his brothers, Dan and Chris, had short stints with the team. Now, apparently, according to Cecil, Gronk, who has still kept himself in good shape, has been working out in Vail, Colorado, eyeing a return. Now, Benjamin Albright, who joined the show a couple of days ago, who is also well-connected and an insider, he looked into it and says it's probably a nothing burger. And then Ian Rappaport of NFL Network came out and said that it's not happening. So if you listen to Albright and Rappaport, who are well-connected, they think it's a nothing burger. But Cecil Lammey, who I respect, says that it's a possibility. One thing I do know, Rob Gronkowski still looks like he could play football. Two, the Denver Broncos do not have a presence at tight end whatsoever and could use a guy like Rob Gronkowski. And he might be nice to have on a team with a young quarterback like Bo Nix. Rob Gronkowski is a football guy. He loves football. He's great in the locker room. He brings atmosphere to your practices. He's a funny guy, and he's a big-time baller with multiple rings and a lot of experience. Now, I don't know what type of an impact he could have at this stage of his career, mid-30s, trying to make a comeback to the NFL. But if anyone could come back and be productive at that age, it would be him. And maybe after a couple of years off, with a little bit of rest and the body getting that chance to recoup, maybe he could go out and make an impact. So I don't know. But I wouldn't mind seeing him on the Broncos. But Rob Gronkowski, I've said this before about athletes. If you have a chance to play or you're nearing the end of your career, if you still have a desire to play football, get it out while you can. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. If you've got a chance to play and you want to play, take advantage of it because once it's gone forever. And that's the truth. And what I know about these athletes that are used to competing at the highest of levels, when they walk away from the game, it's a weird awakening because they can't find anything to duplicate what it feels like to compete at the highest level in the NFL. And I've shared the story 1,000 times, but Jerry Rice looked me dead-eye, and I said, what have you found following your career to replicate or replace what you did on Sundays? He said, I'm still looking. And that's Jerry Rice, one of the most competitive players and hardest workers I've ever seen in the game, and the best wide receiver of all time. I'm still looking. And this is like a decade plus following his career. I'm still looking. I haven't found anything. So that's why if you got a chance to play and you can do it and someone gives you a chance to go out and ball, then take advantage of it. Because once you're done, and there's no going back. And you know how these guys are, the football guys, or heck, baseball guys, basketball guys. Usually what they miss the most, aside from just the competition and the rush you get from being out there on the court or the field, they miss being around the dudes. The locker room, being around the guys, working out with the guys, hanging out with the guys, being around the fellas. It's a special sanctuary for them. It's their place. And they love being a part of that. It's fun because you're connected to a team. You've got structure. You've got that in your life. You've got that outlet. And when it's gone, it's hard to replace. Now, the other news, too, the Chiefs expect Travis Kelce to make a return. And again, he's in the same boat. If you still want to play, Travis, then get it out of your system now. Go out there and play. And I think Andy Reid is the right coach for a guy like Travis Kelce. They'll use him in spots. And I think what you can do is utilize Kelce in a way where maybe he takes on a few less snaps. You can keep his body fresh so he can still be an impact player as you get deeper into the season. And I think he can still be productive at this stage in his career because he understands defenses. He's got a great connection with Patrick Mahomes, his route running and understanding. I remember Ronnie Lott saying this once that, when you're young, your body gets you to where you want to go. But as you're older and you start to grow up in the NFL, your mind gets you to where you need to be on the field. Meaning, as your physical tools start to diminish, your mind and understanding of the game will get you where you need to be. You can outthink guys. You're playing chess. Your understanding of defenses can give you a step on everyone, and you can still find a way to get open and make an impact. And that's kind of how I see Travis Kelce. Now, the bad news is for all the people out there that seem to hate Taylor Swift being on the TV, prepare yourself because you're going to get more Taylor Swift with Travis Kelce appearing to come back. And you might as well. If you still got the talent, you can still do it, and they still want you to play, then go out there and take advantage of it. Don't miss out on an opportunity to go out there and ball. And that's how I feel about athletes. No one can tell you when the time is right. You've got to make that decision because once it's gone, it's gone. And you've got so much life ahead of you, you don't want to always be dealing with that what if. What if I would have stayed another year? I should have stayed another year. Why'd I shut it down too early? Not everyone can be Barry Sanders where you walk away at the height of your NFL powers and be perfectly normal. Most guys can't do it. So play. Get it out of your system. So when you walk away, you're fully satisfied and you never have to wonder what if. That's the way I see it. And Travis Kelce can still play. He's not the same guy. We've seen that over the last couple of years, but he's still very impactful and productive. And on third downs and in those key moments, it's a great security blanket for Patrick Mahomes to know where he's going to be, how they operate. And the great thing about Kelce, because of his understanding of the game, he can move. He changes routes based on what's happening with the play. So it could be one thing before snap, but after snap, based on what happens with the protection or what the defense is doing. He's got this sixth sense with Patrick Mahomes, which is a lot of fun to watch. So there you have it. Now, the Browns say they're not going to trade Myles Garrett, but what are the Browns supposed to say right now? You say that he requested a trade. He's one of the best players in the NFL. I'm sure they don't want to trade him, but at the same time, you can probably get a pretty good return for Myles Garrett. So my guess is they'll end up trading him. He's just saying that because he's trying to drum up as much interest as possible and try to get as much in return as possible for one of the best pass rushers in the NFL. All right, when we come back, Bino! Fox Sports Radio going to join us. And we'll get his take on Gronk possibly making a return. We'll get his take on Luka making his first appearance against the Mavs tonight in L.A. Lakers and Mavericks, 7 o'clock TNT. And then Gavin Dawson at 5:20. You got the Rip City Drive. All right, joining us now from Fox Sports Radio is my brother from another mother. It's the one and only Brian No. Bino, what's up, brother?
What is going on, Chad? Doing? Always good to be with you, buddy. How are things?
It's great. I'm having Shacker play George Strait right now. All my exes live in Texas because I saw the new Luka Nike commercial where he's fueling up his purple rig, putting the 77 license plate on to this song here, All My Exes Live in Texas, ahead of tonight's game with the Lakers and Mavericks. I thought it was perfect.
Oh, man, what a game, too, huh? Isn't it crazy that AD is out and Luka is in and Luka just diced up the Nuggets?
Yeah, it's so good. It's delicious. I love it because, I was just thinking about this earlier where in the NBA, the season is so long. We don't get these type of moments very often in the regular season where you're like, oh, I have to watch that game. Tonight would be one of those moments where I can't miss that game with Luka being at home against his former team. It's great.
I know. It's such a great backdrop. And, man, think about right after the trade where all those Mavs fans, they were like, fire Nico, and they had a coffin outside of the arena. And it's not like anything has gone well. AD was going crazy in his first game. That was his first and only game so far with Dallas because he got hurt. That's crazy it's worked out the way it has.
Yeah, it's crazy. I saw this tweet from Gavin Dawson, who's down in Dallas, and it's in regards to Mark Spears' take on the Luka trade. Quote, I think there's more to that story, that I think they are trying to be respectful and not go into the weeds, but we'll see how things go with Luka in L.A. Things are going to be much more magnified. Wait a second. The Mavericks have been respectful through this process so far? That's news to me. Come on now.
Oh, yeah. All it is a smear campaign.
Yes.
That's all it's been ever since they traded Luka was like, oh, my gosh, this guy and the lack of conditioning and, this guy. And the breaking point was he had a wrist injury, wink, wink, in November, and we were using it for conditioning. And did they forget this guy's been first-team All-NBA the past 5 years, each of the last 5 years? It's great. The one thing, Chad, if his numbers were really lackluster and he left a lot to be desired production-wise, I don't care what he looks like, how overweight he is. I don't care. I just care about production, and he's been productive the whole time he's been in the NBA.
Yeah, no question. He's been terrific. And so I have looked at a lot of Maverick social media just to get a feel for Dallas fans. I think what most of them want tonight, they want Luka to go off and put up like 50 or 60 because they want more fuel to go after Nico and the Dallas Mavericks front office. They're still pissed off, and they should be.
Yeah, they should be. That's just such a tough trade. If you're a Dallas fan, think about that. Think if that happened with the Blazers. Honestly, Chad, imagine if, and it's not the perfect comparison because we know how free agency works in Portland, but so it's not quite apples to apples, but just think of a Luka-like talent in Portland who's been a first-team All-NBA guy each of the past 5 years. And instead of holding on to that guy and building around him for the next decade, ownership trades him for a 31-year-old who's really good, but 31 years old and not quite as good as Luka. Do you realize how crazy you would go if the Blazers even thought about doing what Dallas just did?
Yeah, people would go crazy. They bring coffins to Moda Center, and they would try to burn the place down. They wouldn't understand it, nor should they.
No, they shouldn't. That's the thing, man. And tonight, it's like, oh, great, we're +9 against the Lakers. Awesome. We have a bunch of injuries. We might not even make the playoffs. And then, oh, hey, what do you know? AD's 32. It's like, what do we have to look forward to if we live and die with the Mavs? Like, not a whole lot right now, not compared to what you could have had.
What's great about this trade, this is why I love player movement. You and I were just belly aching over the NFL season being over and no football for 6 months a couple of weeks ago. But with this type of move, what I'm excited about now, think of the potential matchups we could have in the Western Conference playoffs where you get a chance to see Luka going up against, it could be OKC. Maybe we get fortunate and you get like a Dallas-Laker matchup in the playoffs. The possibilities are endless, but with Jimmy Butler going to the Warriors and now Luka in L.A. with the Lakers, I don't know if those teams can win the West, but I do know one thing, the playoffs are going to be wildly fascinating with those two guys or those two teams involved now.
Yeah, no doubt. The storylines are going to be fantastic. And even if the Lakers don't go deep in the playoffs, Chad, just the storylines alone, where you get the first playoff go-around with Luka and LeBron, And depending on who they're matched up against, it's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait to fade the Lakers in the playoffs. I'll be honest with you, Chad. You got to have a front court, man. Sorry, I love Luka. I love LeBron. Those guys, their credentials speak for themselves. But you can't have Jackson Hayes, and we just signed Alex Len because the Mark Williams trade fell through. Yeah, good luck. Just look at the bigs in the West alone, Chad. Like, if they're matched up right now, it's 4-5 would be against Houston, who's a young team, and Lakers might get by, but Houston's live. Şengün is going to eat the Lakers alive if that is the matchup. If they're matched up against Joker, even if they're matched up against the Thunder, Hartenstein's going to just do work on the glass, man. Like, you have to have some front court. It can't just be all, like, shooters and perimeter guys and like threes and fours, you know what I mean? You got to have some bigs, and the Lakers just don't have it, man. I just don't see them going far in the West at all.
Yeah, I know. Rim protection does seem to be fairly important come playoff time for some reason.
It does matter. It can help quite a bit, yeah.
There's no doubt. Part of the reason why Dallas got to the finals last year were the deals they made at the deadline to have extra bigs and which provided defensive rim protection. All right, I want to ask you this because we're getting into the season of misinformation in the NFL. Over the course of time covering the league, how have you learned how to navigate through a lot of the nonsense we're going to hear with the combine quickly approaching?
Well, I think a lot of it, Chad, is you have to do the math on your own, and you have to play a game in order for this to be true. You know what I mean? Because you'll hear some of these things. Sometimes you'll hear it directly from the teams. That doesn't mean they're telling the truth. And so it's like, in order for this to be true, let's just say that a team is supposedly really high on this one particular player.
Yep.
And it's like, okay, do the math on that. Does that really help their situation out? And if they were really high on that player, would they be telling Peter Schrager or whatever media guy, yeah, we love this player? No. It'd be like being at the poker table, Chad, and just saying, hey, I got Big Slick, I got Ace King, just so everybody knows. Like, no one would do that. You would play those cards close to your vest or chest. I'm not quite sure if it's vest or chest, but either one, you wouldn't tell anybody what you had or what you were planning to do. So that's the first red flag, is any information that's out there that's supposedly coming from the teams. I really wonder why they would put that out there, because it's not in their best interest to put it out there. So it's either a smokescreen or they're not really gung-ho on that player to the tune of, we're going to take him in the top 10 or whatever it may be. So that's the thing, is you just got to do the math on your own instead of just buying a story that's out there, because if there's true interest, they wouldn't put it out there in the first place.
Well, that's a good point. Let me give you an example. Myles Garrett requested a trade last month, and today Andrew Berry, the Browns GM, comes out and says, we have no intentions of trading Myles Garrett. That feels like a smokescreen to me.
Well, it could be. I think they're eventually going to trade him because, I mean, I know they're going to take a cap hit that's significant,
yes,
especially when you're on the hook with Deshaun Watson. But, Chad, why are you holding on to Myles Garrett? Even if you're taking that cap hit, do you think the Browns are going to draft a quarterback and pull like a Washington Commanders this next season? You know, like what are the chances of them doing that in the AFC? They're eventually going to move Myles Garrett because that team just isn't good enough. They're not a Myles Garrett away, like retaining him from making a run deep into the AFC playoffs. It's just not going to happen. So they're going to move him. I think in a perfect world, they would like to not trade him and the roster be better than it is. But the reality is the roster isn't good enough. You still have a huge question mark at quarterback unless you draft someone. So you're going to move him. You're going to trade him, and hopefully you get top dollar, unlike the Dallas Mavericks. You know, like that should be goal number one. Don't trade him for a Dallas Mavericks-like haul whenever you do inevitably move him, because they're going to move him.
Yeah, I agree. Now, let me ask you a question about that philosophy you just mentioned. You've got the Titans and the Browns sitting there at the top of the draft. Because we know that each team is more than a quarterback away, do you think it would be better for those two teams to either take a different player outside of quarterback like an Abdul Carter, or should they look to trade out to get more value for where they're at so they can have more resources to rebuild their squads?
Yeah, it's really a matter of preference, because in those teams' eyes, if they're gung-ho on Abdul Carter and you're like, let's just go with this guy, or Travis Hunter somehow is there on the board and you're like, this guy's a freaking stud, by all means, go that way. Now, if you can trade down and get even more players, it's really a matter of how high are you on Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter? Because if you think those guys are true game changers, you might be better off going that way than moving down and getting even more picks. Because it's like you get a true 1A compared to whatever, a 1B and a 2B, whatever you trade down for. So I think it's really a matter of what those teams think of those particular players. I think they're both special. Gosh, I watched Abdul Carter throughout the season, and especially against my Irish, and he was dinged up, and he was a freaking problem, Chad. And we all know about Travis Hunter, completely legit Heisman winner, dual threat. So I think that it's probably better for those teams, especially if the Browns lose and move Myles Garrett. If you get an Abdul Carter, that makes a ton of sense. I don't think you can go wrong getting Travis Hunter. So the question for those teams is, do you go the Patriots way and draft like a Drake May when you need a lot of help with those rosters, or do you try to bulk up the roster and then get the QB? I think it's just tough to be in that range to get one of the top prospects when your roster is good enough where you're not just bottoming out, So
Yeah.
Sometimes you do have to get the quarterback when you don't have a whole lot of help around him roster-wise.
We're talking with Brian O, Fox Sports Radio here on the Rip City Drive. Do you like Travis Hunter at corner where he's going to participate at the combine and then being utilized in some offensive packages? Do you think corner's the best route for him?
I do. I think he's a true corner. I think he's a good wide receiver also. But if it's a matter of, let's say this, he's full-time on one side of the ball and he gets, let's just call it 15 snaps on the other side of the ball. I would rather him be a full-time DB and get, 15, 20 snaps at wide receiver, because I think wide receiver, that's a position where you can get sprinkled in a little bit easier than get sprinkled in as a corner.
I agree.
Right? For him particularly, I think you get into a better flow as a DB to just come on the sideline. We're not talking as a nickel, we're talking as an outside, like full-time cover guy. That's hard to just get sprinkled in from time to time. So I think he would flourish mostly being a full-time corner and a part-time wide receiver. And we'll just see where he goes and how much they utilize him. If that is the setup, how much they use him as a wide receiver, because he's special in that regard too. So I'm curious how many snaps a game he does get.
Yeah, he's going to be fun to watch. All right, Bino, I want your philosophy on the tush push. Here's where I come out on this, because we got teams now who are whining about the tush push because the Eagles have perfected it and they want the league to get rid of the play. My thought is, my simple thought on this is, they have perfected the play. I don't see why you should ban a play because one team can do it better than everyone else. I kind of look at it like the hack-a-shack rule, where if you don't want to be fouled and put on the free throw line, then get better at making free throws and teams won't foul you. Where do you come out on the tush push and whether or not it should be a part of the game?
Well, I'll be honest with you, Chad. At first, I hated it, but I came around on it because at first I'm like, this is stupid. This isn't rugby. This is football. What are we doing? And then I came around and I'm like, you know what? If you don't like it, stop it.
Yes.
And if you can't stop it, tough. like, where does it end? If it's like, hey, we don't like Mahomes airing it out to his wide receiver, therefore what? You can't throw the ball 50 yards plus downfield? That doesn't make any sense. You could play that game and use that argument with a lot of things that are tough to stop. Why is it just the tush push that we apply that logic to? And for the Packers, how pathetic are they? It's one thing to say, we're like filing a motion to have this banned, which is just a weenie move. But the argument, Chad, Brian Gutekunst, the GM, stood up there and was like, well, I know we haven't had success stopping it. I do know that much. So your argument is we suck at stopping it. Really? Like, even if you're going to go down this road, be smart enough to just put the BS package around it of like, this is a player safety thing. We don't want quarterbacks to be getting hurt. It's
Yes.
a dangerous play. They're getting pushed from behind. They're taking contact, all that type of stuff. That's the way you argue it. But they're like, yeah, we're not good at stopping it. You're never going to win an argument like that. Oh, they're just that's such a weenie move. I would feel this way. Listen, the Bills are pretty good at quarterback sneaks. If they did the tush-push and had a great success with it like the Eagles, and the Dolphins are like, oh, ban it, I'd be like, you guys are pansies. Find a way to stop it, but stop whining about it, and at least use a good argument where you have a leg to stand on with this possibly getting changed. Oh, the Packers, they're the worst for doing
They
this.
need to shut up. The funny thing is, that's how the league's going to do it. If they choose to get rid of it, they'll try to drum up some stat on player safety. And I always find that funny because the league, anytime the league comes out to pretend to care about player safety, I laugh and raise an eyebrow because I know that they say that, but I'm not convinced based on past actions that player safety is at the top of their, their agenda. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of goofy.
Oh, absolutely. This is that. If you said player safety as a reason to ban the tush push, this is like not the real reason. Like you go back to your dating days, Chad.
Yeah.
If a girl said, I'm kind of busy, I got a lot of homework or whatever, that might be true, but that's not the real reason. She's just not interested.
Yeah, she's not into you.
If you said, she's not into you. So if you say, the safety concerns, we don't want quarterbacks. They are the rock stars of this league. It's a dangerous play. Yeah, that's true, but that's not the real reason. But at least you have a chance for it to get changed that way.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's pretty funny. I think it's ridiculous. Also, Travis Kelce, it looks like he's going to come back for another year. My philosophy on players is very simple. If you still can play and you still have a desire to play and it's still burning inside of you, get it out now while you can. Don't live with regret and retire too soon. So if Kelce still wants to play and he's got the ability to do it and the Chiefs want him back, then get it out of your system now because you can't come back once you make the decision to shut it down.
I totally agree with you. And there have been a couple of athletes that hung on a little bit too long. Like Brett Favre is a good example. That final year with the Vikings was a disaster. But think about this, Chad. They made it to the NFC title game the year prior, and he threw a terrible interception against the Saints.
One of the worst.
Horrible. But epic NFC title game. And think if he walked away, Chad, he would have wrestled with that maybe till this day of, man, maybe I should have given it one more year. Who knows what we would have been able to do. Now, it turned out to be a disaster. There were texts to Jen Sturger of his junk, and he got walloped against the Bears. It was just a disaster. He got hurt. His Iron Man streak ended. But he doesn't have to wonder and wrestle with what if. And I think that with Travis Kelce, he can still play. I mean, stop comparing Travis to himself at his peak. Compare him to all the other tight ends in football right now. He's still upper echelon. So, yeah, I would absolutely come back if I were him. He's got to gear it up again for another go, which is a lot of work. But I still think he's got plenty left in the tank to have a good final season if this is it for him. But even if it isn't, he doesn't have to wrestle with, man, what if?
Yeah.
And he doesn't have to wrestle with, man, that's the final chapter, is getting punked by the Eagles and wondering what if because I walked away. I think it's a good move for him to come back.
Yeah, walk away on your own terms. All right, where are you at right now? Where in the world is Brian Noe?
Man, I don't know. Somewhere in the state of Colorado. And all I know, Chad, is I tried to enter a prop bet on Illinois' leading rebounder because Iowa, they lost one of their bigs and they struggle against the leading rebounder of the opposing team. And apparently there are no college props allowed in the state of Colorado. It's a lot like the state of Oregon. I don't know what's up with these states, but I had to go with alternative bets instead of that one right there.
All right, before you go, don't you think tonight it feels like a situation where J.J. Redick and LeBron and the rest of his teammates, don't you think they're going to go out of their way to get him the ball wherever he wants, as much as he wants, so he can really stick it to the Mavs?
It does seem like that, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It seems like they're going to feed him. And look, he was hot. That's the other thing, is just feed the hot hand. He could very well have it again tonight. He just had it against the Nuggets. So they might be looking to do that also. That was the first game that Luka looked comfortable.
Yeah,
right?
he looked good. He looked real comfortable.
Yeah. The first couple, he's like, all right, what's my role? How do I fit in? It's almost like being in a new band where you guys are playing the same song, but you play it differently because you got different bandmates around you. He looked comfortable against Denver, and if he starts to look comfortable against Dallas, and I'm sure he's going to be motivated. They're going to feed him early and often, man. I expect him to have a really solid game.
Who would have thought two high IQ players like Luka and LeBron, they'd be able to figure it out? Jeez.
I know. I know. Crazy how that's worked out, huh?
All right. Well, give my best to my people in Colorado. Enjoy your trip, and we'll catch up soon. That was awesome.
All right. Always good being with you, Chad Doing. Hit me up anytime, man. And I told Denver, I drove by, and I was like, Chad says hi.
And, of course, you got to fist bump Elway for me. That's my guy.
That's right. Always will be your guy. Long live number 7.
That's right.
Hashtag TB12 for life.
Hey, Dame with another 3. Hashtag TB12 for life.
Man, Dame's cooking tonight. Hashtag TB12 for life.
I'll never forget the look in my dog's eyes when he's like, why are you burning that Elway jersey, you freak?
He was so confused, man. Had no idea.
I'm not sure what was better, that or me wearing a pair of Uggs doing yoga in the TV studio with a Brady jersey on. That was embarrassing.
Oh, epic stuff, man. But you have a good week, Chad. Always good to be on with you, buddy.
You got it. There's Brian Noe, Fox Sports Radio. All right, Gavin Dawson from Dallas going to join us coming up at 5:20. You got the Rip City Drive. day since I've had a good poo. All right, big thanks to Brian Noe, Fox Sports Radio. Sean and Sandy has chimed in. Players should have more regrets of staying too long and taking unneeded crippling injuries and being a defect to their teams. Goals of winning a championship for the greedy, selfish desires to keep playing. Sad that some teams would ever think about playing the most popular player instead of the physically fit players. So I think he's talking about two different things there. Look, all I can say is, from the guys I've been around and spoken with who played the game, Lorenzo Neal, who is, I believe, the best fullback of all time and should be in the Hall of Fame, had a chance to work with him and was around him a lot. And I saw the impact from playing that position for more than a decade in the NFL. He had some side effects from the collisions, the head trauma. It was a very real thing, especially early in the morning. But I asked him on multiple occasions, would you do it all over again? And he said, in a heartbeat. In a heartbeat. He's like, the game, the competition, the opportunity to play the game, what it's provided for me and my family for years to come. He's like, I wouldn't pass up on that, and I would go back and do it all over again. That's the choice you make when you're a gladiator like that. They make the choice to play and play, and that's why I think you should play as long as you possibly can, or at least until your desire to play is done. Barry Sanders reached a point where he knew he was done. And he was ready to shut it down. It just happened to come at the height of his NFL powers. But he shut it down and walked away. And because it was the right time for him. And if Travis Kelce still wants to play and wants to come back next year and do it, he should do it. I have no issue with that. Now, this second message, sad that some teams would ever think about playing the most popular player instead of playing the physically fit players. Hey, look, Luka Doncic may not be the most physically fit player on his team, but he's the best player. And he's a terrific player. He's a top 3 player in the world. What I'm curious about, here's what I want to know. Going back to that information from Mark Spears, who said that, basically there's more to it now, and they're trying to be classy in how they handle the situation, which is laughable because the Mavericks have done nothing but, leak stuff constantly ever since the deal was made because they've been under so much fire for making the trade in the first place. Maybe we'll find out more. But unless he was doing something illegal, what else could it be? That you don't like his lack of commitment to the team, that he wasn't showing up for some team bonding experiences on the road so he could hang out with his buddies, and you're not happy with his conditioning. Okay, but he's still a top 3 player in the world. With all of that, he's still a dominant player, a transcendent player. So you've got to come up with better reasons if you're going to make a move like that and not get back multiple first-round picks to retool your franchise moving forward. Like I said, if they were to get like 5 or 6 first-round picks in return for the deal, at least I could embrace that a little bit more. So we'll see how things shake out. But more than likely, you make a move like that, Nico Harrison will be out of a job soon. There'll be turnover in the front office. Most people don't survive trades like that because it's going to go very badly. And it's going to impact the business side because fans are going to be ticked off and they're not going to pay for tickets or do this or do that. And they won't show up. That's the best way for fans to get their message across. Stop spending money on the team. And they'll take notice of what's going on and realize they got to make change. So it's going to be fun tonight. What a big scene that's going to be for Luka and the Lakers at Crypto.com Arena with the Mavericks coming in. It's not too often we get games like this in the regular season where you're like, in an NBA regular season where you're like, I've got to watch that one. That is one I got to watch. Tonight would be one of those games. It's going to be on TNT, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And we'll see how well Luka plays. My guess is no less than 40, unless, of course, the game's so out of hand by the end of the third quarter that they just decide to rest guys. But my guess is Luka will have a big night. And the Lakers will make sure that Luka has a big night. LeBron and Reeves and the rest of the crew will make sure that he gets the ball as much as he wants, where he wants, and allow him to do what he does. That's how teammates take care of each other. Don't worry, we know. This is your night. The Mavericks are in town. You need to send a message. You're motivated. You want to get off. We'll make sure you get off. And hopefully he's going to have that type of game. My guess is usually when you get a great in this type of situation, they don't wilt under this type of spotlight. They thrive. I would be stunned if Luka doesn't have a big night. I would expect a blowout, but it's the NBA, so you never know. But I would expect Luka, at the very least, to have a big night. Because if there's any game where he wants to be ready, this would be one of those games. This one in the return trip back to Dallas. So there you have it. Other than that, we got to navigate through all the nonsense that teams are putting out with the upcoming combine about who they like, who they don't like, who they want to trade, who they don't want to trade. I heard from, who was it? Mike Mayock said that teams sometimes won't even mention a player in hopes he doesn't get an invite to the combine so they can later go back and negotiate it with him on the side. You know, teams are very skilled in how they go about their process to make sure that no one knows what else they're thinking. You try to disguise your desire for other players so you have access to them. All right, we'll keep things rolling. Gavin Dawson will join us coming up at 5:20, and I will discuss the growth that we saw last night, continued growth of the young Trailblazers. You got the Rip City Drive. Hey, what's going on, my friends? 5 o'clock, Chad here. Trailblazers got a win on their first game in a 7-game road trip last night in Utah over the Jazz. Ant, 28. Avdia, 18 points, 14 boards, and 5 assists. Not perfect, but they got it done. And Coach Phillips, very pleased with the opportunity of having those good coaching moments after a win.
I really am excited. There's so many good things that we're going to be able to learn from, and it always feels a lot much better to learn after a win. You get that group credit over there. They played their butts off, and I'm glad we got the win, though.
Yeah, Blazers continue the road trip tomorrow in Washington, D.C. They take on the Wizards. Tip at 4. Our coverage starts with Game Day, hosted by Chris Burkhardt at 2. Tonight, TNT at 7. Mavericks at the Lakers. First meeting between the two teams after Luka was traded to L.A. for Anthony Davis. Right now, the Lakers are a 9.5-point favorite from the NFL. Browns GM Andrew Berry says the team has no plans to trade Myles Garrett. Nick Sirianni said it would be unfair for the NFL to outlaw the tush push, and the Chiefs expect Travis Kelce back in 2025. Right out and said it, girl. What took you so long? This is probably my second favorite Phil Collins song. All right, it's time to play little Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday. We're going to keep it simple today. I'll give you out the phone number, and then you have a chance to win tickets, courtesy of your Portland Trailblazers. And for all of your Trailblazer ticket needs, it's very simple. Just head on over to trailblazers.com. And for the Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday today, we are giving away tickets for the Detroit game on March 9th, which, of course, is Bill Walton night. Not Luke Walton night. He'll be there, but it's Bill Walton night at Moda Center. We got a pair of tickets to give away right now. So we'll take caller 10 at 503-248-0620. Caller 10 to 503-248-0620. Fire away now. I want to hear from a Walton fan. 503-248-0620. Caller 10 right now gets a pair of tickets courtesy of your Portland Trailblazers on Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday. And for all of your Trailblazer ticket needs, simply go to trailblazers.com. Also, you can podcast the show. Just simply go to the iHeartRadio app. We spoke with Brooke Olzendam about Brooke Heart Your Heart. Go to trailblazers.com/heart for all the details on her foundation and how you can help support. And if you would like to buy merch to support the foundation, you can pick up the pin, which they have this year. There are some hats available, Brooke Heart Your Heart. And you can do so at ripcityclothing.com or at Rip City Clothing inside Moda Center. All right, Gavin Dawson will join us coming up at 5:20. Got to get his take on the Luka trade ahead of tonight's matchup in L.A. with the Lakers and Mavericks. But the Blazers last night kicked off the 7-game road trip in Utah, and they got a win over the Jazz 114-112. Now, the game itself wasn't pretty. It wasn't like we saw on Saturday when they hammered the Hornets by 53 points. But I think a sign of a good team, or at least a team that's getting better and moving in the right direction, is finding a way to win a game on a night when you don't have your best stuff. And the Blazers did not have their best stuff. They did in spurts. And like at the end of the first half when they went on an 18-0 run, or the 13-0 run that they had in the first quarter. So they had moments where they played terrific basketball, but they also had stretches where they weren't engaged quick enough defensively. They had some turnover issues in spots, and they just weren't consistent enough on the offensive end. But good teams find a way to grind and continue to work and get things done defensively, and you can find a way to get a win. And after the game, Coach Phillips shared his thoughts on the game.
They hit some really tough shots. I thought we played good D on the plays. You know, Keontae hit some big-time shots. But it was a lot to learn at the end of that game. You know, this is one of those games, I always say it, Brooke, it's just tough to play teams when they sit, when all their guys don't play. You know, you spend so much time preparing for their guys. And then you have to play against some guys that are really good players that usually don't have the freedom. But now it's like, hey, I want to show what I got. And it's difficult to play in those situations. So it really is, you have to have a level of focus in these type of games to get over the hump, you know. And I don't think our focus was there early. We started getting a lot better in the second half. And I told our guys if we pressured the ball like we usually do and then we rebound and we won the rebound battle, then we could win the game. It just took us too long to pressure, though. That's why they got so comfortable.
All right, there's Coach Billups after the win. So the Blazers found a way to get it done. You know, Ant and Grant provided the bulk of the scoring. I really like the way Denny Avdia played because he didn't shoot the ball well, but at the end of the night, 18 points, 14 boards, 5 assists. Peppering the stat sheet, finding ways to impact the game, and, of course, bringing it energy-wise defensively. That's what good players do. They pepper the stat sheet. They find ways to make game-winning plays and to help a team even on a night when they don't have the shot going. That's what made guys like Avdia and Kamara so valuable. So I thought Avdia was great. He really, you know, cranked up that energy in the second half when they needed it. And Keontae George, props to him. You know, the Blazers had the game won on multiple occasions, but Keontae hit back-to-back threes late in the game to put the Jazz in a position to tie it or to win the game. And fortunately, his three was right off the front rim. It was online, but the Blazers did a good job of contesting, so he couldn't get the shot to go down. But they escaped with that one. Also in the game, I thought Scoot Henderson looked great. I really like the way he's playing over the last 6 to 8 weeks. More confidence. Defense has been there, fully engaged. And last night, even with the turnover issues, made an impact. Like Avdia, he did a little bit of everything. 17 points, 5 boards, 6 assists, which is good. He did have 6 turnovers. You know, the Blazers in spots had issues with the turnovers. Half of their 12 came from Scoot himself. But Scoot is continuing to improve defensively, picking his spots on offense, and I thought had some moments of very good decision-making last night, which is what you want to see. Double-digit rebounds for Klingon. The Blazers won the rebounding battle, which is important for them because it's been a point of emphasis from Coach and something they've been actively working on. And you got 12 points and a couple of boards from Shaedon Sharpe. He didn't shoot the ball particularly well, but he did continue his streak. I think it's at 38 straight games now with a three-pointer. So what we're going to see as this road trip continues is, again, more opportunities for the young guys to get a chance to play. That includes Jabari Walker, Donovan Klingon. Obviously, we'll see a lot more of Kamara and Avdia. And, of course, Scoot Henderson and Shaedon Sharpe. But win, lose, or draw, you just want to see the continued development from these young guys. From, you know, the key 5, Klingon, Avdia, Kamara, Scoot, and Shaedon. And then at the end of the season, you know, the Blazers are going to have plenty of data to be able to sit back and understand what they have with the roster, which is important. But I did like the way that they played because you're not going to have your best stuff on most nights, and you still have to find a way to get it done. And Coach Billups talked about the second quarter run, 18-zip, which allowed Portland to go into halftime with a double-digit lead. And he also shared his thoughts on the way Utah, with their young players, continue to battle.
You look at that quarter. I mean, they went pretty much 6 minutes without scoring, and then the kid Collier hits the shot from beyond half court to close the half out. So we really got in a rhythm defensively in that quarter. And then we came out. I thought we had a pretty decent start in the third quarter. But it was just, we just could never really get control. But to me, there's just so much to learn from these type of games. You're going to have to win ugly games. And last game, we won a beautiful looking game, you know. But you learn a lot more in these tough games.
There's no question about it. One more thing for Billups on the win, or I heard from that, or the teaching moments. And this is what Coach said. You know, he likes to have these opportunities to be able to teach, where you get the win, but there's a lot of things you need to tighten up, and he discussed that.
I'm excited about being able to teach tomorrow with the things that happen at the end of this game. I really am excited. There's so many good things that we're going to be able to learn from, and it always feels a lot much better to learn after a win. You get that group credit over there. They played their butts off, and I'm glad we got the win, though.
All right, one more thing. Definitely want to hear from Denny Avdia, who, you know, once again just did a heck of a job of leading the group and playing with energy there in that second half. And what an exciting moment for him, getting a chance to be in D.C. tomorrow to go up against his former team.
It was close. Good defense, communication. You know, I thought we closed out the game, but, like, you know, they hit 2 crazy threes and came back in it. But hey, the matter is that we won, so can't complain.
You guys are finding ways to win games that are different ways, and you've learned to win over the last few weeks. What has changed in order to get those victories down the stretch that might not have come earlier in the year?
Just communication. I think our communication has been better. Like, we know what spots we got to be in. We sharing the ball. And I think that it's very hard to guard us because everybody can get hot in any day. And as I said, our chemistry, our communication, that's what helped us close games.
Now, this is a long road trip, longest one of the year. You started out with a victory. Now we're heading back east, and you're going to go get to see your former teammates in D.C. I don't know if you've thought about it yet. I'm sure you have, but what do you think with that game 2 days away?
I mean, I'm going to be a little excited. I won't lie. Like, everybody there, like, it's like family to me. They've been there since I was a rookie, so definitely excited to go see the guys that I play with. But I'm not thinking about the game too much. I'm just going to play my game, be solid with the ball, like drive, do what I do. You know what I'm saying? I'm not overstressed in the game, so that's my mentality.
All right, there's Denny Avdia. Love that guy. Yeah, big performance from him. Not perfect, but they got the win. This road trip, easier to start, and then it's going to get progressively worse as they continue on through the road trip. But an opportunity, like I said, just for the guys to continue to play and an opportunity to grow. And that's all that matters right now. Player development. Getting better, making improvements, continuing to apply what the coaches are throwing out there. We got to see that from these guys. Next two games, very winnable. At Washington, at Brooklyn on Friday, and then they have Cleveland, Philadelphia, Boston, and Oklahoma City. So the final four games, aside from Philly's a mess right now. Cleveland, Boston, Oklahoma City. Hard to find three worse places to go to right now than those three. All three playing very good basketball. But an opportunity for Portland to, maybe get 3 or potentially 4 wins on the road trip. You can beat Philly. The Blazers can beat Brooklyn or Washington. And then you see what happens against Boston and Oklahoma City. So there you have it. The Blazers now will move on, get ready for this game tomorrow, and then we'll see how things shake out. But a very busy month of March coming up. 15 games in the month of March. And then you finish with that flurry in April where they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games in a 13-day span. The end of the NBA season is crazy. 15 games in March, 7 games in 13 days at the beginning of April, and then it's all over. And their final 2 games at home against the Warriors and the Lakers. Hopefully, Luka will play in that final game of the regular season. Maybe it'll be a game that matters to them. Maybe it won't be. But he didn't play in the game last week when they were in town. That sucked. Wanted to see him, didn't get to see him, but we'll have a chance to watch it tonight. And that's what we're going to do next. We're going to head to Dallas and talk to my former partner, Gavin Dawson. And we'll get his take on the trade. What does he know? Why did they do it? And how we're going to look back on this, 10 years down the road. Gavin Dawson's coming up next. All right, our next guest is just as responsible for my radio career as anyone else I know. He's the host of the G-Bag Nation down at 105.3 The Fan in Dallas. Very happy to welcome Gavin Dawson to the show. My friend, what's up? How you doing, Gav?
Man, it's great to hear you, Chad. It's awesome to be on with you once again, brother. Yeah, man, it's NBA chaos in Dallas-Fort Worth.
Yeah,
that's about the best way I could put it.
Yeah, no doubt. What are Maverick fans hoping for tonight in this game in L.A.?
Well, I mean, 53% of them in a poll that our morning show host, Sean Sharif, put up this morning, 53% voted, I want to see Luka put up 50 points plus and the Lakers win. Like, this is the craziest trade I've ever seen in that it's actually cost you a significant portion of the fan base, and so many of the fans who are tuning in tonight are hoping that this just, continues to blow up in the Mavericks' face in the worst way possible.
What went through your mind when you got word when the trade went down?
Well, okay, so this is funny. It broke later on in the evening, and I had gone to sleep. So when I woke up early in the morning, I saw this massive thread in our group chat that I'd missed like hundreds of texts. And, a lot of the guys had been up. And at first, I couldn't see anything other than they were saying it was the worst trade ever. And I was like, wow. So I'm thinking maybe the Cowboys traded Micah Parsons. I did not imagine until, I'd been investigating for a minute or so that they had traded Luka. I was just shocked, because when I saw it, I knew it was a bad trade. And so I'm thinking, okay, what do they get? And then you see Anthony Davis and Max Christie, and I'm thinking, okay, multiple firsts, and, to just get one first-round pick for it, and, to get an injury-prone player like Anthony Davis, it was just shocking. And really, since then, I've been trying to gain perspective on what allowed this to make sense for them to think it was a good idea.
All right, I saw you put out a tweet where you had a quote from Mark Spears, who's been covering the league for a long time. He said, quote, I think there's more to that story, that I think they're going to be respectful and not going to go into the weeds. But now we'll see how things go with Luka in L.A. Things are going to be much more magnified. What's your take on that?
Well, there's players in sports all the time, and we were talking about some of them today. Most notably in Dallas, it would be Michael Irvin and everything that went in the White House and their partying days. But, I mean, sports is full of guys in their 20s that live life to the fullest. And, part of Luka's failure in the Mavs front office's eyes was just that his fitness was never good enough. And, he seemed to, openly defy what they wanted him to do as far as getting to a weight, getting to a body fat percentage and a performance level. We'd heard early this year that when he was out 5 games with a wrist injury, it was really, they were sitting him out as a kind of a way of punishing him for gaining weight since the season had started. And then when he came back from the wrist, he was actually a little bit heavier. So he didn't get in shape, right? So it was not a surprise. I think last year during the playoffs, there was this viral video of Michael Finley, the assistant general manager of the Mavericks, taking a beer out of his hands that he was having post-game after, I think, eliminating the Timberwolves or the Thunder. It was something that we'd heard their frustrations with, his fitness, his lack of dedication to being in the best shape possible. So that wasn't a surprise, but we're waiting to hear what's the real smoking gun. Like, how bad does the information get? Because I've never seen anything in sports as far as the fitness that would, justify a decision to give up on a superstar at age 25.
We're talking to Gavin Dawson, host of the G-Bag Nation. He's in Dallas. What do you make of the conspiracy theories out there involving the Adelson Group with their desire to potentially tank the team and get them into Vegas? Is that nonsense?
That is total nonsense. I don't mind at all putting on the tin hat and going conspiracy. I think at times it's a fun thought experiment for the very, but it would cost, they're talking about this expansion fee to move a team to Vegas being $6 or $7 billion, which the owners all split up.
Yes.
So that's divided by 30, that's hundreds of millions of dollars for each. Relocating a team out of a top 5 television market in America to go to a place where and you don't get the $7 billion, so it wouldn't make sense. I believe the Adelsons want to get sports gambling and casinos legal in Texas and then build a facility with a basketball arena and a casino around it. The interesting conspiracy though is, Chad, just that not tons, but a handful of the game's biggest stars have gone to the Lakers in their prime. Whether that's Shaq or whether that's Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Yes.
And now you have another one. So I think the bigger thing is, did Nike executives along with TV executives say, listen, we got entities that are pulling out of these major broadcast rights agreements. I'm sure you guys noticed MLB and ESPN yesterday. We're just like, we're done. We're not. Bally's and Diamond Sports Group, they severed a lot of their local baseball agreements, and the Supreme Court ruled that it's okay for TV networks, if it's no longer profitable, for them just to bail, right? Because they got to do what's in the best interest of their business or whatever justification they gave to it. So, how much healthier is the future of the league now? The Lakers gave up all their picks, trying to build a winner around LeBron, and it got them one, but they don't have much of a present or a future until Luka just falls in their lap. And I think that conspiracy is very realistic, because we're talking about literally billions of dollars in ad revenue that they could lose out on.
Yeah, you made a very good point shortly after the trade, where if you look at the league as a whole before this deal went down, you had an imbalance of superstars in small markets like Luka in Dallas, which is not a small market, but it's not a major market like Boston or L.A., Giannis in Milwaukee, and now you've got more balance. You got Shea Gilgeous in Oklahoma City, but now with Luka in L.A., I agree that the league's in a better spot.
And just look at all the talking points that have resulted and how much more traction the NBA has on all the talking head TV shows. That's just an example of what a superstar in a market like Los Angeles do for you. And then Gatorade does a deal with Luka, and that's a deal that he did not have, but that was announced yesterday as well. Up at this point, it was like smaller endorsements, so I think this means a tremendous amount of drama for the media outlets to bite into and talk about, and I think it gives them now, if they can find a secondary star to go with Luka, maybe it puts the Lakers in the championship picture, which is going to make the league just so much more healthy from a ratings standpoint.
Okay, so here's the one thing I don't understand. Like, if you want to trade Luka because he's not buying into the team concept and you don't like his conditioning and you're concerned about the $350+ million you have to give him with the Supermax, I guess I can kind of get to that point. But if you're going to deal him, how can you not get back multiple firsts in return? Like, that seems like malpractice.
You're absolutely right. I think it's partially because Nico Harrison and Anthony Davis had a lengthy relationship with their ties at Nike. I think that sort of made Nico misevaluate how good Anthony Davis is. But yeah, I think that's the one that's never going to, quite go away, because you imagine if you make a move like that, you're going to be put in a situation like the Oklahoma City Thunder had, where they have all these picks that you're bound to eventually find another superstar of his equal. The narrative that the Mavs have spun up is we didn't want to go shop this thing around because we didn't want this thing to blow up and fall apart behind the scenes, because it was so important to get this trade done. It'll never make sense, other than, I'll tell you what, the 3 quarters of basketball that Anthony Davis played. Now, this is without Derek Lively, who, other than Wemby, is like the best young defensive center. He's incredible. And it was with Daniel Gafford, who's a pretty good center, but maybe not an all-star, or has the potential to be one, but very good rebounder, shot blocker. Anyway, the point I'm going to make is the defense they were able to deploy with P.J. Washington and Reggie Marshall and Anthony Davis and Daniel Gafford was unbelievable. Like, you see how good OKC defends. Imagine that, but taller.
Yeah.
And it was a sight to behold. I was like, holy crap! I don't know if will ever forgive Nico, but if this team stays healthy, I would pick them to go win the championship right now. I think that's probably how they justified it.
How do you think we're going to look back on this trade 10 years from now?
the worst trade. Even if you do win a championship from the Mavs perspective, you'll never know what could have been with Luka. Assuming they don't have like some massive information, but the thing is, his lifestyle is fairly quiet. It's sure he drinks and eats too much pizza. Okay, he likes beer and pizza too much, so he gets fat and he doesn't want to be in shape for you. So unless they have something that makes it look way worse, and he breaks down before age 30, as has happened, if he wants to be totally negligent with his body, Chad. I know you are an expert in how the cellular breakdown can happen if you're abusive and you put all these toxins in your body. Assuming that we have a fairly normal trajectory from this point forward, I think it'll be viewed as one of the worst trades in sports history.
All right, I want to ask you about the Cowboys. You shared a story with me once because I'm fascinated by Jerry Jones, and of course you guys carry the Cowboys and you get a chance to talk with him. You told me once that you were doing a post-game show following a Cowboys game, and Jerry took exception to what you were talking about, and he called in to combat with you on air?
Yeah, that's happened a couple of times, actually.
Amazing.
Once doing after drive, and once, on the show. I think one of the times was, we were trying to come up with why the Cowboys don't really build a complete team, right? They do enough to make the playoffs, but they're like, oh yeah, our run defense sucks, and the Eagles, 49ers, the Rams, the Buccaneers, all the winners in the NFC are like, hey, what's the biggest weakness on our team? Can we find an all-pro to plug it? The Cowboys are like, yeah, you can't have it all, right? So I was saying maybe he's lost his his fight or his drive to be great at this age. And he was like, well, I just wanted to call in and let you know, I'm a grandpa, we're still out here kicking ass and taking names. And I'm like, oh, yes, sir. And then, at the time was a long time ago, but a player, I think it was Sean Lee, had an MRI on his knee.
Yeah.
And Jerry didn't know about it. He had been on our morning show that day, and they asked him about it, and he didn't know about it. And I was like, wow, that's weird. Maybe Jerry's just like a figurehead at this point. Maybe he's kind of like in retirement. And he wanted to call and make sure that I knew that he was on the job 12 hours a day and still working as hard as he ever could. But he's, for the most part, he's always been incredible to work with. He's not a pain in the ass at all. I know he had a high-profile run-in with our morning show this year where I think the toxicity of losing kind of got the best of him one day. But overall, I mean, he's a magic with his relationships and his communication. So nothing but respect for the man from that way. But his team building sucks and outdated.
Yeah, there's no question. One more question for you about the team. I'm wondering with Brian Schottenheimer, do you think, like most people hated that move for the Cowboys, but I'm wondering, could he end up being like a Nick Sirianni or a Dan Campbell where, the coach gets trashed because of the press conference and the hire, and no one likes it, but he turns out to be pretty good? What's your assessment on that move?
I think you're onto something. We were just talking about that, and, one of the things with the Cowboys under Mike McCarthy and under Jason Garrett is they got stuck in a rut trying to pass the ball so much. And, nothing against Dak Prescott. I think he's a pretty dang good quarterback. But you saw even with best teams, you got to be able to run the football. And not only did they not have enough of a priority to it or an investment in it, but their scheme really sucked. Like Shanahan and McVay, Stefanski, a lot of these guys have done a really good job. Obviously, Dan Campbell, you have two great running backs and a tremendous offensive line, but they invested in it, So there's a lot of different ways to get a great running game. And Schottenheimer, obviously, from his time in Seattle, we knew that he liked to run it. But then he went out and hired assistant coaches. Clayton Adams was the offensive line coach with Arizona, and the schemes that they put together with James Conner were incredible. They were diverse. They were unpredictable. And then he went to Kansas State and got Connor Riley, an offensive line coach, who same thing is taking, 3- and 4-star guys and making some of the best offensive lines in college football. So it seems like, what he wants to do aligns much better with what the team needs in order to be successful. And I won't be surprised at all if, it was just a matter of he's been a good candidate all along. It just, was waiting for the right opportunity. But I think he can extend Dak's career and hopefully make them a balanced offense again for sure.
Well, I get people that ask me all the time, how's life been in Texas over the last decade plus?
Man, it's been great. I have a 13-year-old daughter. I have a 3-year-old daughter. just doing the whole Texas thing with the truck and a swimming pool in the backyard, and
That's great.
I couldn't ask for more. It's been a dream come true. I still visit Oregon twice a year, but my parents live in Bend now, so I'm usually over there.
Well, that's a great place to go. Well, I never conveyed this well when I was younger because I was an idiot, but thanks for everything you've done for me in my career, and I got nothing but respect for you, and I'm just happy to see your success, man. Continue to crush it, my friend.
Well, shoot, man, you were amazing to work with. Thank you, and you definitely did express it back in the day. Maybe you don't remember it, but I definitely have a lot to thank you. I mean, you're a partner to come up with in the ranks, and work hard and all the fun that we had, and of course, salute to the great John Phillips as well.
Yeah, no doubt. Enjoy the game tonight, brother.
Cheers, buddy. Thank you. You too.
Yeah, there you go. The General, Gavin Dawson, host of the G-Bag Nation down in Dallas. All right, so you heard it from Gav. 10 years from now, it's going to be the worst trade ever, even if they win a championship. All right, coming up next, we're going to end the show a little bit early because we got some NHL for you. That's right. The Kraken are in action, and we're going to join the game in progress. And I hope you enjoy it. And I'll be back tomorrow with your Trailblazers. The Kraken right now are in St. Louis taking on the Blues. 7:09 left in the first, and the Blues on top 2-0. So enjoy the Kraken hockey. Tomorrow, game day will kick off at 2. I will have the Trailblazer pregame show at 3, and then tip-off with the Wizards at 4. A big thanks to Brian Noe, Brooke Olzendam, and the General Gavin Dawson for joining the show. Michael Shacker for engineering the program. I'll talk to you tomorrow.